The wildfire had torn through the forest, leaving behind nothing but ash, smoke, and silence. I thought the danger had passed, until I saw her. A mother cougar, eyes wild and desperate, stood at the edge of my property with 3 starving cubs behind her, looking straight at me like I was their last hope. Nick had grabbed his shotgun, convinced someone was about to break through his door. But it wasn't a person. It was a cougar, huge, fierce, and wild-eyed. Behind her, 3 cubs clung to her flanks like shadows, no bigger than house cats. He didn't move, frozen in his kitchen behind a dusty window, holding his breath like a fool. His heart thundered in his ears. He hadn't moved out here for this. He wanted silence, space, not predators. But the cougar didn't growl, didn't lunge. She simply stared at the house, her yellow eyes fixed on the door as if she owned it. Her ribs showed through her patchy fur. The cubs didn't look afraid, just worn out, like they'd been walking for days. Maybe they had. The fire up north had raged hotter than anything Nick had seen in years. Smoke still hung in the morning air. He'd thought it had spared his part of the woods. Clearly, it hadn't spared hers. She stepped closer, slow, deliberate. Nick's grip on the shotgun tightened, but he didn't raise it. Not yet. "Don't do anything stupid," he muttered to himself, unsure whether he meant her or him. She stopped 3 feet from the porch. The cubs lingered behind her, a tangled little mass of fur and fatigue. Then Nick saw her paw, bloodied, swollen, crusted. She was hurt. This wasn't an ambush. This was desperation. He backed away from the window, shotgun still in hand, instincts screaming to lock the door, call someone. But there was no one to call, no service. Town was 20 miles out, and no one there knew what to do with big cats anyway. He moved to the door, cracked it open just enough to see out. She didn't move, just stared at him, exhausted, yet defiant, as if to say, "You're scared." Good. So am I. Nick stood, one hand on the doorframe, the other gripping the shotgun. He should have shut the door, should have locked it, should have stayed the man who didn't play nursemaid to dying animals. But he didn't. He opened the door wider, lowered the gun, and stepped back just 1 pace, leaving the decision to her. She returned the next morning. Nick hadn't slept much. Every creak, every rustle kept him on edge. He made coffee around dawn, his hands trembling, convincing himself he'd imagined it all. But then he heard it, tiny footsteps on the porch. He peeked through the curtain. The cubs were there, sniffing, pawing at an old boot. Their mother crouched at the base of the steps, her eyes locked on the door. Nick cracked it open. She didn't flinch. The cubs froze, except the smallest, the limper. He met Nick's eyes, unblinking. Nick closed the door, returned 2 minutes later with freezer-burned deer meat. He stepped out slowly, placed it halfway between the steps and the tree line, then backed off and closed the door. She didn't move at first, but the cubs watched her. The smallest inched forward. Finally, with what seemed like a nod from her, they pounced on the meat. One growled. She silenced them with a low grunt. It was wild, but it was disciplined. Nick watched from the kitchen window, stunned by what he was doing. Feeding wild animals. Losing his mind? Maybe. But could he really let them starve? They ate, then vanished into the woods without a sound. That afternoon, Nick sat on the porch, shotgun across his lap. He felt like he'd opened a door he couldn't close. Dusk brought quiet movement, just the limper this time, limping up the stairs and settling on Nick's welcome mat like he belonged there. At 2 a.m., a clatter woke Nick. Trash tipped over, wrappers scattered. He found fresh cub tracks near the can and followed them to the old Miller place, a burnt-out husk of a home across the creek. Inside the collapsed shed, glowing eyes. Hers. Nick backed away in silence, flashlight off, heart pounding. By morning, he was drinking bitter coffee like it was medicine. He couldn't stop thinking about how close they were, less than 100 yards. Late morning brought Jason, his neighbor, armed. Suspicious. "You feeding them?" Jason asked. Nick didn't answer. "You feed wild, they forget they're wild," Jason warned. "Next time, I'll handle it my way." Nick waited until the sun began to fall before grabbing his shotgun and backpack. He walked to the shed, slow, careful. She was inside, ribs heaving, paws swollen. Her blood-matted fur said she'd been worse before. Nick whispered as he crouched down with the med kit. "I don't know what the hell I'm doing, so don't bite me." She didn't. He cleaned the wound, bandaged the paw, and sat beside her. He talked, told her about his wife, his regrets. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was understanding. He visited again, left food, gauze, always at the edge, always watched. But the world caught up. A missing poodle, gossip, a sheriff's visit, Jason pointing fingers. "Have you seen anything?" Sheriff Barnes asked. Nick looked toward the woods. "I haven't seen anything," he said. Another lie. The food he left kept disappearing. But now, the cubs were bolder, harsher. One hissed. The limper only stared. Nick ran low on food. Then out. He shared beans with them, half on a plate, half in a pan for himself. They licked the plate clean. The limper growled at him, not playful, hungry. Something had changed. He heard the scream at sunrise, followed the sound, found the cub, his limper, caught in a steel trap, Jason's. Nick freed him. The cub bit, then recognized him and limped away. Then came the click. Jason, shotgun raised. "You just can't help yourself. He's just a cub," Nick said. Jason fired a warning shot. "If I see them again, it won't be." That night, Nick left painkillers at the shed, then walked home, shaking. Spring came hard. The woods bloomed, and they disappeared. He searched. Nothing. Until one morning, on a high ridge, he saw them. The mother, full-bodied and healthy. The cubs are stronger. Even the limper was walking better. She saw him. Didn't run. Just looked. Recognition passed between them. Then she turned and led her cubs into the trees. Nick didn't follow. He just stood, chest full of something he couldn't name. Back on the porch, he held an empty mug. Didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just sat. People asked why he lived out there. Why has he never come to town? He used to have 100 answers. Now he had one. Because when something wild looks you in the eye and chooses not to kill you, you remember it. She hadn't thanked him. She didn't need to. When their eyes met, he understood everything he ever needed to. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you like this story. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss updates from our channel. Thank you.